right, Shalom. All praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha Kwadash. Double honor to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopeful elect. Okay, I have a video right here. It's from First Coast News, all right, and it says, Iran warns U.S. ground troops would be set on fire if invasion occurs. All right, and that's exactly what's going to happen. All right, we're going to go into the scriptures, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and we're gonna show you, right, that these troops in the Middle East, they're going to get set on fire. All right, they are going to. Okay, there's going to be lasers from the chariots when Yahweh Shai and the angels come and jack these people up during the War of Armageddon, aka the war in heaven, right? That Revelations, the 12th chapter, speaks about. Okay, 2nd Ezra 13 as well. Lord's will grab those scripts. All right, and then there's also going to be that nuclear destruction in that land. All right, so we're going to let this video play. Fair use. All right, not making any money off of this. All right, this is just for Bible prophecy purposes. Okay.
Well, tonight, Iran is warning it is ready to face U.S. troops on the ground, threatening American soldiers to, quote, set them ablaze if they attempt a ground invasion. Over the weekend, the U.S. reinforced its military presence in the region, with thousands of troops now deployed to the Middle East. These are pictures from U.S. Central Command of Marines and sailors arriving there on Friday. Meanwhile, Pakistan says it will soon host talks between the U.S. and Iran, though Tehran is dismissing the negotiations as a cover. Now, Congress remains split on the situation in Iran. Democrat Representative Cory Booker was on Meet the Press today, slamming the Trump administration. And earlier today, I spoke with Representative Randy Fine, a Republican who serves our area, who says he thinks the conflict is going well.
Remember, this president had stated objectives, none of which he is achieving right now, from the nuclear program all the way to, frankly, regime change. The regime is more extreme. They've shown an asymmetric ability to choke up the Straits of Hormuz, has caused a global oil shock, and for Americans at home, our costs continue to rise. This is after the president.
Yeah, and you know what? That's fine. You can watch the rest of this if you want to on your own time. The point being that they, these Iranians said we're gonna light these, Babylonian troops on fire. All right, and there is going to be fire in the Middle East. Okay, so let's get this. This is Zephaniah, 3 and 8. It says, "Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation." Indignation means what? His righteous anger. He has a righteous anger, the Most High does, towards these heathen. Okay? Excuse me. "Even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be what? Shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." The Most High, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, is gonna gather these nations up in their armies, right? Every relevant military power, right? We're not talking about, some Ooga Booga tribe of Hamites over there in Africa that shoot darts out of a stick. No, we're talking about every real military power, right? The Most High is going to gather them into the valley of Jehoshaphat, the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, the Most High's judgment. Okay, and he's gonna burn them there. All right, he's gonna have them fight this gruesome war. All right, and he's gonna send his son there with the angels to jack them up, and then he's also gonna send the nuclear destruction. Okay. Not only to America, but also simultaneously to that Middle Eastern area, okay? So, let's see. I got more scriptures here. Let's get Joel 2, and then we'll get Joel 3, right? But I want to get Joel 2 and 20. It says, "But I will remove far off from you the northern army," talking about the United States Army, "and will drive him into a land barren and desolate." Okay, now what is that land barren and desolate? That is the Euphrates, Salakia. That is the that Saudi Arabia, southern Levant area. Okay, And when you look at it on a map, right, we're gonna go into the breakdown, right? It gives you the outline, all right, of that area, you know. And I'm actually flipping to it in my scriptures right now, just to make sure I have an idea of what it is, but I just want to make sure I break it down right. All right, this is Joel 2:20. All right, I'm gonna read it again. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, that's the U.S. Army, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate. That's what? Ultimately Saudi Arabia, right? That's going to be the scene of the major fighting of World War III, you know. With his face toward the East Sea, that's talking about the Euphrates River, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea, which is what? The Red Sea, okay? And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. Yeah, great wicked things, right? The Most High is gonna punish these nations, okay? That's that ill savor, that mass death, all those dead bodies, right? From this war, you know, and from this nuclear destruction, okay? Now let's go to Ezekiel 38th chapter, all right, where it goes into Armageddon, right? Let's start Ezekiel 38:20. All right, and this is talking about World War III, the destruction, you know, Armageddon, okay? So that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven, okay, and the beasts of the field, and all creeping things that creep upon the earth, and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence, and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Why? What's going to do that? That earthquake when America gets destroyed. All right. Scriptures tell you real quick that the earth shall what? Shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. Okay. Upon the destruction of all these missiles hitting America. Jeremiah 24:10. Jeremiah 24:20. It says, the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. Okay, you think about, why is that going to happen, right? Or what does that look like? A person reeling to and fro like a drunkard, they're wobbling, right? So earth is going to wobble on its axis, right? In space, okay? Because of all these missiles hitting this one side of the earth. And shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. Okay, so the earth is going to reel to and fro like a drunkard, and that's going to be that earthquake. Okay, so back in Ezekiel 38:21, it says, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord power. Every man's sword shall be against his brother, right? Because World War III will be taking place. All right, and please forgive me 1 second. Excuse me. Okay, so back in Ezekiel 38:22, it says, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, right? Talking about, the hymn here earlier in the chapter is talking about Gog, right? You know, these Russian troops, okay? But this destruction is going to happen to all those troops, not just the Russian troops, you know? It's not like the missiles are going to come and Yahushua and the angels are going to come, but then they're going to spare, the Saudi Arabia. No, it's everybody there is going to get destroyed, you know. All those nations' armies are going to face that destruction, you know. But back in Ezekiel 38:22, it says, and I will plead against him, against Gog, the Russians, right, the Russian soldiers, with pestilence, meaning, what's that pestilence? Talking about the nuclear missiles. Zechariah 14:12, right? Tells you that the nuclear missiles are likened unto a pestilence, but it's also talking about diseases as well, and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands, and upon the many people that are with him, right? These other nations that are fighting against Russia and alongside Russia, right? An overflowing rain and great hailstones, fire and brimstone. That's that nuclear destruction. So please forgive that. So these Russian troops and these other troops, they're going to get nuked in the land of Israel. that these troops are going to come and they're going to set them on fire. Well, they are going to get set on fire. All right, that is going to happen. All right, there is going to be that nuclear destruction. All right, but the Iranian troops are going to be in that fire too, you know, like it just said, Ezekiel 38:22 again, and I will plead against him, against the Russians, against Gog, with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands, meaning his armies, and upon the many people that are with him. So the other ones in that region too, that are with him and against him, you know, that are there, you know, fighting this war. They're gonna get burned up in the valley of Yahweh-Shaphat. Okay, let's actually get that in Joel 3, right? And then we can get 2 Ezra 13, okay? Joel 3:1, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, when the Most High is getting ready to bring his people, the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, out of captivity, right? Our last captivity being America, Babylon the Great, all right, and everywhere else we were scattered, right? In this last time frame, these last days, you know, we're still in captivity, right? And the Most High is getting ready to bring us out of it by sending his son back to deliver the elect, okay? I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. So we just read in Joel 2:20 what the borders for that valley are, right? The Euphrates and the Red Sea, you know, in that Saudi Arabia Levant area, okay? Excuse me. So it says, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. You know, so in these last days, when the Most High is getting ready to deliver us, he's also going to bring these nations down into the valley of Yahweh's judgment for a punishment, okay? So let's read Joel 3:9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, okay, the actual heathens. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, right? Gather up your armies for this World War III. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, right? All your agricultural stuff, your agricultural funding that you had, redirect it towards weaponry, redirect it towards nuclear capable weapons, and redirect it towards having stronger armory, right? So that you can fight this war. You know, because a plowshare and a pruning hook, that's what? That's for farming. Both of those things are, right? But when you have swords and spears, that's for warfare. So redirect your funding for your country from agriculture to warfare, because we're going into World War III, is what this is saying, you know? Let the weak say, I am strong. And now you have these weak nations that have always been weak, but now they're strong. Why? Because they have nuclear capabilities, you know? And the Most High said that he created the smith Isaiah 54:16, it says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. That's talking about what? These nuclear scientists, they are the smith, you know, that blows the coals in the fire. Meaning what? They created that ultimate fire weapon, that nuclear warhead, you know, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. So the Most High put the equations in their head, the right chemicals to use, the right atoms, and, you know, the right whatever, you know, all that science stuff. He put it all in their head. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way, right? And he created the waster to destroy, because these scientists, their whole purpose was to create, you know, these Edomite scientists, their whole purpose was to create these powerful, potent nuclear weapons so that the Most High could use them to destroy America, okay, as well as, you know, the Middle East, Israel land, right? The land of Israel, excuse me, you know. But unlike America, Israel will be rebuilt, okay? So that's how the weak are saying that I am strong, right? They have those nuclear weapons now, okay? In Joel 3:11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. All right, multitudes in the valley of decision. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Talking about where? The Middle East, right? The valley of Jehoshaphat. Okay. The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord, and that's because of why? Because of the nuclear destruction. That's going to block out the sun and the moon and the stars, right? It's going to be so much smoke and radiation, right, that you're not going to be able to see anything, Verse 16, the Lord also shall roar out of Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake because of that great earthquake, right? But the Lord, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, will be the hope of his people and the strength of the children or the sons of Israel, okay? So anyway, so that's true what Iran said. There is gonna be hellfire. There is gonna be the troops getting set on fire. That is gonna happen down there. All right. Now let's go to 2 Ezra chapter 13. Okay. And again, I'm gonna get the little breakdown. I'm pretty sure I could just break it down just right now, but I want to have my notes with me, to make sure that I'm on point, So this is 2 Ezra 13 and 1. It says, and it came to pass after 7 days, I dreamed a dream by night. And lo, there arose a wind from the sea that it moved all the waves thereof. So that's metaphorical talk, right? That's talking about from the heavens, the atmosphere is likened unto waters, and same deal with outer space, right? So, so that's what that's talking about. It's not talking about the actual ocean, okay? And I beheld, meaning Yahushua is coming back from the heavens, He's coming back in the clouds of heaven, the so-called UFOs from outer space into the atmosphere, Verse 3, and I beheld, and lo, that man, which is Yahushua, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus, waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, which are the angels that are with him. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. So that voice is metaphorical for that laser coming out of his ship that is going to burn these people up. Okay? After this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men, right? Multitudes in the valley of decision, okay? So this is Armageddon happening, right? Out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea, right? So they were all fighting against each other. This is what they're all going to do. They're going to be fighting against each other in World War III. Then they're going to stop to fight against Yahushua, and they're going to get destroyed, okay? But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain and flew up upon it. So that's that great big chariot that Yahushua is going to be riding in, okay? Or that he's going to be piloting, But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. Right? He was trying to see where the base of this mountain was, but it was just a ginormous ship. It wasn't a mountain at all. After this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet durst fight. Right? Man's goings are of the Lord. Proverbs 20 and 24. The Most High is going to put a spirit on these nations to try and fight against his son, and he's going to just destroy them. Okay? And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lift up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. Okay? And this is Yahushua shooting the lasers out of his chariot. Okay? But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire. That's the laser. Okay? And out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. All right. So, yeah, we could read a little bit more. Verse 11, and they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, which fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. All right, so that's what Iran is saying. Yahushua and the angels are going to come back and burn these people up in World War III, and you're also going to have the nuclear missiles come and destroy them. So I just wanted to touch on that. I pray that wasn't too long. Pray I wasn't all over the place. I pray that I was edifying to you brothers and sisters out there. So yeah, I thought it was funny. I saw that this thing popped up yesterday. I didn't really get around to it until today. Iran warns U.S. ground troops would be set on fire, okay, if invasion occurs. And man, that's exactly what's going to happen, So, hey, all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakaha Quadash. Double honor to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the hopefully elect. Shalom.